Baseball is on deck. Pitchers and catchers report this week. Can you feel baseball in the air tonight? I certainly can. As you can tell, Justin, he can as well. We'll get into so much on today's episode of Locked On Guardians.
Let's go!
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I am Jeff Ellis, one of your two co-hosts. I want to thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever you get podcasts. I think I left the S off of that. We're going to get into the Jason Bilous and Zack Collins editions we haven't talked about yet. We're going to talk about how the World Baseball Classic is going to affect this team in spring training. We're going to preview what's coming up this week. We have some really fun shows as well. I'll just do that now. We're going to release our top prospect lists. We don't have the time to go super in depth as there's two of us and both of our lists are like 50 deep. I'll continue doing my short series in addition, giving each player their time. But you'll get to hear, the top 10 at least on the show this week. And then we're going to do a prospect draft. So we'll need everyone then to comment and let us know whose team is beating the other one in a head-to-head matchup after we do that. And of course, as news happens, we will discuss it here on the show. I know there was some interesting stuff. I don't want to take something from another podcast, but apparently before show we talked, Shelby as God had some more good background on the Will Benson trade. So just, if you are someone who wants more information, I'm not going to sit here and steal Zach's information. I'm just going to say it's another great source and give it your time. We want to be supportive of other people doing great work in the space. So if you want a little more info on that, it's our 5th most popular video ever on YouTube. So thank you to everyone who watched, shared, and the like with that said episode. Before I get into the show specific, I just wanted to throw out one more time the Jim Poole Invitational Charity. This is not a sponsor. This is just us. Jim Poole has ALS. He's unable to go to the event this year due to ALS. They were hoping he could make it. If you're going to be out in Arizona, February 24th, there's registration. There's a putting contest, a tournament, happy hour, dinner, silent auction, live auction, all to support ALS Cure Project. So, Jim, this team struggled for so many years to get left-handed relievers. Derek Lundqvist was really good until this team became good. And while Austin Macher was solid, Poole filled that void for a few years there. They tried to find that guy who could be at secondary lefty. And now he's fighting a terrifying disease. So February 24th, if you are going to be in Arizona, I think it is a great thing. In Mesa, Arizona, something to check out and consider. I know some people travel to that for spring, travel to Arizona for the spring training. So go check out the Jim Poole event if you have that opportunity. It's a great cause for, a great human being, because the Guardians are very quick to cut bait with people who are not. I think we've seen through the years. You can tell who is a good human by the ones they still keep tied to them, and while others just kind of fade into the background. Speaking of fading into the background, Zack Collins' major league career. Is that too rough? Is that he was announced as a catcher. Dustin Knight was briefly bought up by Justin, which was a good call by him because that didn't get announced the next day. He was ahead of the curve on that. Zack Collins is fascinating. Yes. Did I give him a first round grade out of college? Absolutely. Did I think he was a potential Guardians target? Absolutely. Instead, that might be what the Bradley Zimmer draft? Is that who they ended up getting instead in 2016?
No, 2016 was the Will Benson and Nolan Jones draft.
Will Benson
15 was Zimmer.
Draft. Yep, good call. So Collins was a wrecking ball in the minor leagues, and this is why I actually kind of like this edition. He was a terrible catcher, and I wonder how much the stress of catching put on him. But this is a guy who, in the minors, his weighted runs created plus. So again, weighted runs created plus takes everything you do, boils it down into one number. And 100 is average. 110 is like 10% above average. 120, 20% above average. Very simple. So in terms of years that he played over 100 games at a level, he had a 130 and then a 128. And, he didn't play much in 2016 because that was his draft year. Then it's 2017. That's 2018. 2019, he gets to the big leagues. And yeah, his walk rate has really dwindled. He was a guy who could walk, hit for power. he's an interesting right-handed bat who might be, or no, I'm sorry, he's a left-handed bat, but might be better served as like a backup first base type, occasional emergency catcher. You might be saying that's David Fry-esque. Well, he'd be the other part of a Fry platoon, but if you can help fix him, or even like he's a fascinating character, I don't know if character study, but statistical study. Like what went wrong? Because he seemed pretty foolproof in the minors.
Yeah, I mean the strikeout rate in the minors was left a little bit to be desired.
Still under 30 though.
It is, but what have we talked about from the great John Sickles is that the prospects who fail are the ones who fail to hit and make contact. And I mean, you can always project a slight bump, right? If you strike out 26% of the time in AAA, you can assume 28 to 30 in the majors. There's that jump, and he also is a lesson in passivity too. I mean, you look at his swinging strike rates, and again, this is not a exact science, but from what I've read in the past and what other people will generally think about in a range is that you look at someone's swinging strike rate, which again is how many times they strike, how many times they swing and miss when they swing. And his was at about 11% through his career and 12%. And he struck out. The idea is you can essentially double that, right? So if you swing and have a swinging strike rate of 11%, you can assume that your strikeout rate is going to be like, 20 to 24%. And his are about 26 to 30 or 28. So it kind of feels like he has a bit of a passive approach. There's that to consider. We've seen that doesn't work from guys like Bradley Zimmer, and you can even argue Will Benson. But I think your point about him being a platoon or the left-handed David Fry is interesting. Now, obviously, Collins, I don't think has any experience at third base, and Fry's best defensive position might be third base, ironically enough. But he's an interesting bat. And like you said, there's a certain level of patience, even if it is a little bit of passivity. There's power. I don't know. It's an interesting profile. I wonder how it fits. Again, you've got this whole logjam in AAA right now, right? And right now you have Valoria, who's going to be gone, which we'll talk about. You've got Fry. You've got Collins. Not Collins. Collins. You got Gallagher and Lavacita. So there's a lot of guys as part of that list. So I'm not really sure who all ends up making it, in terms of who's going to stick around come April. But he's an interesting candidate. But based on what we know, he cannot catch. Catching is not great for him. It'd be great if he could hit enough to be like a quasi first base DH option who can like be your third catcher or be a guy who catches once a week. But I don't know. I guess they'll just see how it plays out in spring training, right? Who ends up being the best fit for them? Throwing was a good. There was a lot of good scouting reports for him on his ability to throw, and catch and throw is something that is going to be needed.
Pop times were awful, I want to say, when I looked.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Bad pop times and bad framing. I think in some respects we'll get into it in segment 3 a little, but I think it is
camp body.
It's a camp body. It's insurance because they're losing 2 catchers to the World Baseball Classic. Yeah. They need someone, and it gives him a chance to prove himself. And if he doesn't, there's a chance he'll take a AAA or AA backup assignment because there's not going to be. He needs. He was still out there on the market, and I think you have a really good point. It's like he's passive with bad contact data. Like, he absolutely killed the ball and he walked a lot, but walk rates don't always translate. And I think we've talked about that many times on the show, that guys who get a lot of value from their walk rate, like it is good to see a good walk rate, but when that is maybe a significant portion of your value, that's a concern. That is not something that necessarily holds up when you get to the big leagues.
What did I say last week? What did we talk about? Context, right?
Yeah.
Context matters, and you can't just say on its own a high walk rate is good and it always translates. You have to have context.
Yeah.
And boy, I just saw the Savant data on Collins. Yeah, 21st percentile in pop time in 2021. He hasn't had enough attempts in the majors to qualify any other year, but yeah. So that's interesting. The scouting reports on Collins, if you go back and look at different outlets who do this stuff, they all gave him a good arm. Like they would give him I've seen average to above average arm, and so far
he had the arm, but he's just not. He's not got good feet. Yeah.
Okay, mechanic. So there you go. So interesting though that people grade that way and it didn't pan out. So you never know.
I mean, that's why I called him back in my draft guide. If you wouldn't pulled it up right now, like first base / catcher. Like I put the position I think they're going to end up first, and I thought it was a bit of a pipe dream. I go back there. It's always a funny thing that he was the guy that I got talked out of putting to the White Sox because the talk was they were going to take Gavin Lux. So, hey, it could always be worse. Thankfully, they took Zack Collins and not Gavin Lux.
The White Sox?
Yeah. No, that was the talk.
I think they would rather have Gavin Lux right now.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Thankfully for us as fans of the Guardians that they did not. Oh, I see. I'm saying we should be thankful that Zack Collins was their selection. So, because right now they wouldn't have a black hole at second base that they currently have if they drafted Gavin Lux. We still have to talk about the player they added to the 40-man roster. We haven't talked about Jason Bilous yet. We have to talk about the World Baseball Classic. We're going to get into all of that in a moment. But first, I got to talk about our good friends over at FanDuel. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point spreads and even threes drained. Plus, FanDuel lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So don't miss your chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. And you don't want to take your advice from us because I think we advised the Eagles, and that was when it was a pick'em event. So we definitely led you away, but we will still say bet the over on the Guardians for wins. I think that is a good bet. I advised it a year ago, and I still feel good for that one right now.
I lost my parlay tonight on the Super Bowl, so yes, don't listen to me. I'm going to be very curious to see if anybody has any. How'd you do on your bets? Let us know how you did on our bets. Hopefully you did better than me.
Yeah, comment below on that.
If you're taking your advice from me, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Math and betting. Okay, let's just put that out there right now. Math and betting. If I give you advice on math and betting, I don't want to ever tell people not to listen to our podcast. But if I give you advice on math and betting, I would probably, I don't know, mute the podcast for that next minute or something, and not take things so seriously at that point.
Sorry, everyone. I hit the mute button, but apparently did not mute in time for the cough there, or I didn't hit it hard enough. I don't know what happened. Speaking of muting,
I didn't tell you to mute. I told them to mute. I talk about math.
But then I failed to mute as you were saying to mute. But if we ever have a title Mute and Betting podcast, then that is clearly going to be a cry for help, and one of us was abducted mid-video, and we were trying to get it out. So that's the safe word. But let's get to Jason Bilous. Not Bliss, Bilis. He is the newest member of the 40-man. Now, if you are a bit of a conspiracy theorist, this is why they were jumping at the Will Benson trade. Bilis went on the waiver list a week ago Friday. Cleveland made the claim. They had to clear a spot for him. They're probably hoping he can pass through waivers at a later point in time when teams have a little. But I would argue teams have more flexibility once we get into spring training and guys get hurt. He's an interesting guy. He's one of the top pitchers ever from the Delaware prep ranks. Flamethrower, could really bring it. Had a $500,000 bonus offer. Went to Coastal Carolina. After 4 years of showing negative control growth, he ended up being a day 3 pick. Got under 200,000, so took a big hit. Again, showing take the money and run if you are a pitcher. And he went to the White Sox, and I thought it was a great pick because they are pretty good at pitcher development. And we've seen guys just recently, Michael Kopech is a great developmental story for them. He had his struggles. It doesn't always work out. I really liked Alec Hansen going there. It hasn't worked for him either, even when he, had that high point. Carson Fulmer did not develop anywhere. Everyone's tried multiple places, but Bilis throws really hard. And he's got, I think it's let me double check on this before I state the wrong thing. The slider that is a strong secondary pitch. We know they like fastball slider combos. He's almost entirely for his entire career been a starter. Just drop him in the pen. It's not going to work as a starter. He doesn't really have a great third pitch. He's got a great fastball. He's got a great slider. He doesn't know where either of them are going. Cleveland, now I've talked about this on the show as well. Cleveland is really good at like working on mechanics, working with pitchers, adding another pitch, adding a cutter has become something we've seen a lot of guys do, or helping clean up mechanics to gain more velocity. They don't have as many success stories of those guys who have the big velocity and helping them gain control or harness their stuff. A lot of those guys, the big guys who needed pitch harnessing were Hankins and Torres in the recent drafts with high picks, and we haven't seen that as much. So it's an interesting challenge for them, but he could be the next in a long line of what feels like every year the scrap heap reliever.
Yeah, possible. I don't know. I think it's interesting. Obviously, they don't have room for another starter in the minor leagues. Let's be honest. I don't understand. Like even Tuki Toussaint being a multi-inning reliever seems like a hard fit because early on, maybe they try to limit the guys in AAA to like 5 innings, their starters, and Toussaint fills the gap to the back of the bullpen. For Bilis, I mean, I don't know. He probably goes to AAA if he stays, and I don't see where he fits in the rotation right now because AAA and AA right now, there's no room at the end. So the bullpen does seem likely for him. I will say though, I read where he was working on a curveball last year. He's got a curveball. There are some people who like his changeup and think that he can throw his changeup long term. His problem is that he just cannot get into counts where he can utilize his changeup because of the control issues. So that's a problem. Cleveland, like you said, doesn't have a ton of success fixing guys who can't throw strikes. All of a sudden they start throwing strikes, but it is a pitch mix thing. And sometimes you tweak something with delivery, or you simplify delivery, or you tell a guy to cut down on his pitch mix, and all of a sudden they, I think Eniel De Los Santos is a good example. I don't think he was a great control guy before last year, was he? I have to go back and look.
He was okay. I went and looked at this actually on Friday. They weren't they weren't the same level as Bilis, and he had in the lower minors had some better numbers when he had started out before he got traded. But they weren't great, but they weren't awful.
So not this bad. So De Los Santos had a little better control than this before coming to Cleveland, but not great. So I don't know. Bilis is an interesting challenge. I would guarantee that that the Bilis claim had nothing to do with the Will Benson trade. So that just happened to be they were clearing a spot anyway, and he became available, so they claimed him, and most likely they will try to pass him through waivers at some point in spring training and hope to keep him. Who is the guy they got from Jordan Humphreys? They got him from San Francisco, I think, or was it the Mets, like 2 years ago, and I really liked him. After they acquired him, I dug into a lot of video, and they tried to pass him through waivers.
He was with the Giants, the Giants had gotten him from the Mets in a different trade.
Yeah, so and then Cleveland picked him up
from the Giants. Then they didn't keep him, and didn't he go back to the Giants?
I don't remember, but I don't know. I watched a lot of video on him when they got him, and I really liked him. And they tried to pass him through waivers, and they could not because I forgot what the transaction was at the time. But I really liked him. I thought he could pitch, and maybe Bilis is kind of similar. They try to pass him through waivers and see what they can do. But I mean, there is a 4-pitch mix there. Like you said, it might be a 2-pitch mix for the most part. He can get to 97. He did work on a curveball. He does have a decent changeup, it sounds like. I don't know. He also has said Tommy John in the past, if you didn't know that. He also is really into woodworking.
Yeah, Tommy John, like in college.
In college, yeah. Also a avid woodworker. That's my friend James Fox over at Future Sox. Big fan of their work over there. But
Humphreys pitched with San Diego in 2021. That's the last time I see him listed is pitching, and it was the Mets, and then he never actually pitched in the Giants minor league system. So when Cleveland let him go, he must have gone back to the Mets. But he had been traded to the Mets, to the Giants. I remember that part.
Well, we'll see what happens. Again, I don't think that the claim of Jason Bilous had anything to do with the Will Benson trade. I think it just happened to come around at the time they were completing that trade with the Reds, because there's no way that trade took 20 seconds. But they're still going to need that spot on the 40 come some point, because they're gonna add a backup catcher to the roster, whether it's Zack Collins. I don't know about that, but Cam Gallagher or whoever at some point. So they will need that roster spot for a catcher. Who knows? It may not be the last time we see a trade this spring, especially because guys will get hurt in spring training and they might trade for somebody. Somebody might need to trade for somebody. You never know. There will be something that happens at some point.
No, and I think, it'll be interesting to watch. At the same time, you always give them the benefit of the doubt when it comes to pitching. So we'll just have to wait and see. Speaking of waiting and seeing, we're going to wait to talk about the World Baseball Classic. First, we're going to sit back, take a moment, and talk about Built Bar, my all-time favorite sponsor. I know I'm not supposed to have favorites. I'm just going to start off by telling you it's the best tasting protein bar I have ever personally had. You got to try them. You can get them at Sam's Club, you can get them at Walmart, or you can go to BuiltBar.com, use that promo code LOCKED15 and save some money. I'm going to go there right now as we're recording. I'm going to sit there and see what is the current deal over at BuiltBar.com that you need to check out. The last week we talked about how they had free shipping. You can't beat that. They now have a new one, the Maple Donut Puff. That is 15% off and free shipping through Valentine's Day. If you want to try the limited edition Maple Donut Puff, head over to BuiltBar.com today. Their other limited editions are caramel apple, banana cream pie, raspberry cheesecake, and the grasshopper cookie, which is one of their best ever. Head over to Built Bar. Check those out. Remember, the promo code is LOCKED15. And also get them at Sam's Club or Walmart. Wherever you get them, you're going to be happy. BuiltBar.com, promo code LOCKED15. Let's talk Guardians and World Baseball Classic. So, Jose Ramirez? I'm kidding. We got to make fun of ourselves sometimes.
That's just me. You can make fun of me. That was 100% my fault.
No, it's both of us. It's our show. It's both of us. You don't have to dive on that grenade. If we can't make fun of ourselves,
I threw it. Just saying.
Listen, we're a team. We are a team. We're gonna be. We're get through. I'm gonna miss badly at some point this season. It's fair. It happens. But it is interesting. I think one of my big thing listening to the list before you get into that is that 2 catchers are going.
Not ideal, right? Not ideal for Cleveland.
Yes, not ideal at all for Cleveland.
I would say not ideal for either of the catchers who are going either. I mean, obviously, look, this is a great experience and a great honor for these guys to do this. In terms of what these guys need to do for their career and what Cleveland needs for them, it's I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. We'll see how long they even play and what matters. We know Bo Naylor's on Team Canada. He puts in the work. We know he puts in the work. So maybe it doesn't matter as much. Obviously, Cleveland was going to back them for making these decisions anyway. And like I said, it's a big honor. But I don't know. It is interesting timing for both of these guys, I will say.
Yeah, I think it hurts. It hurts MB. Thank you, Kat. That's what everyone wanted is a cat to just get a nice little butt mic moment. But hey, this should increase our videos, like Kat on screen. But I think that hurts his opportunities to make this team because it just hurts his chance to get reps and be seen and work through stuff one-on-one in camp. I think you and I both agree Bo wasn't breaking camp with this team. I know you read me the whole list, and I should have been a good podcast partner and bothered to pull it up. Is Josh Wolf the only pitcher who is going to the World Baseball Classic? Is the rest just hitters?
No. So Cal Quantrill will be on Team Canada, and Cade Smith will be on Team Canada as well as Josh Wolf on Team Israel. And Aniel De Los Santos is in the designated pitchers pool for the Dominican Republic, so he is not on the official Dominican Republic roster for the first round, but they can add him after the first round. And let's be honest, the Dominican Republic is going to make it past the first round, so they can add him at some point because if they get knocked out early on, everyone's going to lose a lot of money. Speaking of FanDuel, right? I'm putting money on the Dominican Republic, so they'll be able to
line up.
Yeah, even without Jose Ramirez, it's still insane.
So we've talked Quantrill, we've talked Bo Naylor, we talked Cade Smith, which is maybe a surprise. Josh Wolf, Richie Palacios is on the Dutch team. We mentioned that before.
That's fun. I love that.
Yeah. And good old MB is Colombia. Who else is on Colombia? Don't we have 2 down there?
Diane Frias. And then Andres Jimenez is on Team Venezuela.
So
And I believe I got to look at the roster, but I believe Diane Frias is playing well. He could play shortstop for Colombia, but I believe Andres Jimenez looks like he will probably play shortstop for Team Venezuela, so that'll be interesting. He won't be playing second base, which is fine because that's what's that? Wow, the Team Venezuela is interesting. I really wonder how Venezuela is going to work this out because this is a good roster. Jose Altuve is most undoubtedly going to play second base, no doubt for them. And then you've got Luis Ariz, who probably plays first because they have Miguel Cabrera, but I think he'll probably be the DH. And then they've got Eduardo Escobar, Jimenez, Rengifo, Rojas, Eugenio Suarez, and Gleyber Torres. So I would think that Jimenez is probably the only shortstop on that roster besides Torres, but Gleyber Torres is not a great shortstop. And Miguel Rojas is a good shortstop, but I would think Jimenez is going to be the starting shortstop there. So that will be
it just makes more sense with everything else they have, especially because, Ariz might be best as like a first baseman anyways.
They don't have, unless they put Miguel Cabrera at first, which he should probably DH, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting. That's a good roster. So, yeah, he'll play shortstop most likely for them. Diane Frias, I'm not sure. I don't really know who else is on Team Colombia, so I have to go back and check. But I don't even know who's on the Dutch team. Who else? Doesn't the Dutch team have a really interesting roster? Don't they have? Isn't Jazz Chisholm playing there too? He would play for the Bahamas. I'm sorry.
Xander Bogaerts.
Oh, you know who's on the Dutch? Oh, yeah, that's right. So
Xander Bogaerts,
shortstop for them. They also have Andrelton Simmons.
Who's one of their catchers?
Yep, Sicknarf Loopstock, former Cleveland prospect. Yes, great story there. Josh Palacios, Richie's brother, also made the Netherlands. So good chance. The outfielders I'm seeing right now are Vladimir Balantin, who's been a Japan star for a lot of years. So Palacios might start in the outfield for the Dutch.
I would count on it.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So
you got both.
The question's going to be how long is everybody playing? Because like I said, De Los Santos is on the reserve roster. He can be out after the first round, and we know the Dominican's going to go on in the second round. I think Team Canada looks good, so they have a chance to play deep. Cleveland's got 3 guys on Team Canada. I don't know much about Team Israel. We'll see. I would imagine Wolf will be a reliever there, but we'll see. And then Venezuela should go far, and Colombia, I don't know. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting. This gives a lot of opportunities for other guys to catch in camp, and 2 guys that probably weren't going to break camp with the team anyway, so maybe it doesn't make a difference. More guys at second base, like we talked about. There's going to be a lot more infielders who get a chance at second base. That's fun. Cade Smith, he got the NRI. He got the non-roster invite to the camp, and now he won't be there early on, so that's unfortunate for him.
Wasn't Team Israel kind of like a surprise advancer a few years ago? Weren't they one of those teams?
Yeah, there was a story on them too. Somebody did like a whole thing on them. So you're right.
Former Guardian Ryan Levarnway.
Yep, he is.
Apparently, we got former catchers everywhere. If you want to go,
none of them good for Cleveland.
No, and the pitching's not great for Canada in general, at least right-handed. It's Rob Kaminsky also on the Israel team, but. Yeah, I don't know. It looks like a hard team to advance. It's they got some players, but you can just go through and look. It's going to be another year where they're going to be an underdog. But against most of like the big, we know where most of the big name talent signs from. Right, like those are the teams that are going to be the expected ones to really kind of step up and dominate.
So, do you have any concerns of any of these guys? Like Cal Quantrill, obviously a big part of the calculus, the rotation this year, and they have pitching depth though, so maybe not. And then Andres Jimenez are 2 guys that are key to the roster. De Los Santos as well, but they should have some of their help there. But any concerns from those guys?
It's going to be a minor concern with Bo Naylor because like he has a chance to like be their starting catcher. So I mean, maybe it's good. He'll get a lot of work. It's not necessarily a great group that he is in. So I just, with anytime you have any catcher, I just have concerns of injury risk with that position all the time, always. They've got pitching wise. I'm just trying to debate if like Cal Quantrill he might be their best starting pitcher.
Yeah.
I mean, Philip Almont, I didn't even know he was still pitching anywhere, is on the Canadian team. John Axford is pitching on the Canadian team. Like it's rough. Like Quantrill might be their ace. It's him and Nick Pivetta are the guys I essentially look at for that position. So I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes. I'm not super concerned. I'd be more concerned. I mean, Cade Smith is a reliever, but we talked about it. He's like a fringy guy to be added to the 40-man in the offseason. I'd be more concerned with any reliever in general, but yeah, it's Quantrill, and I would say Bo Naylor, just the general concern of my cat is, giving herself a bath here on screen, just adding to the show. But yeah, I would say those are the two. I mean, do you have anyone that and then Jimenez is like a third just because like of any player to potentially go down or you can't get hurt. He is the one that would most self-destruct this season if he is hurt. Like he is the guy that you can least afford to get injured at this thing.
Yeah, I mean, if something happens to Quantrill, that's unfortunate because he was reliable last season, but it does give you some window to open up to see other pitchers in the rotation. I'm not too concerned about the pitching depth, even though their depth is is young and inexperienced. That's a problem, but it doesn't come with any caveat of lack of talent. I think. Well, I don't know. The Naylor thing is a little bit worrisome because at some point this year, I think you expect Naylor to be part of the improvement over last year. Like we think that Zunino is going to have a good season. We think that he's going to be an upgrade over Hedges. I know that's not asking for much offensively, but I think we would agree that Zunino should be an upgrade by default, just being healthy. But we expect Naylor to be part of the calculus this year and be part of the roster and adding to the flexibility and the upside offensively at catcher. So not having that would be, I don't know. Maybe you consider Bo Naylor a bonus this year, like whenever he does get called up, to be the backup catcher, if that's like June, whatever. And if he helps out offensively, maybe that's a bonus because look, you went from having an absolute zero offensively at catcher for the last 2 seasons or even 3, if you want to go back as far as 2020, to this year, maybe having a 20 home run guy in Zunino and then Naylor coming up. So maybe he'd be a bonus. So maybe that's not as big a deal, but you really like to have that extra gear and backstops. But you're absolutely right. Andres Jimenez is probably the biggest concern because by far, probably, I don't know, somewhere between Quan and Ramirez, right? Like Quan was super important to this team last year and Jimenez was equally important. I mean, Jimenez got some MVP votes down ballot. So if he has he was the all-star starter at second base. Not that you can always judge off that, but losing an all-star starter from last year for an injury would be a devastating blow. And I don't think you're as good as Cleveland's minor league infield talent could be, Brian Rocchio and Gabriel Arias and Tyler Freeman. You're not matching Andres Jimenez with those guys if you have to fill in, right? So no matter how good those guys are long term, I don't think in 2023 any of them are as good as what Jimenez offers you. So, and I do worry. I mean, early on in spring training, I think guys are ramping up. The intensity is not there. In the World Baseball Classic, the intensity is going to be there. These guys are going to be playing hard. So you're talking hard slides into second base, running harder around the bases, things like that. So maybe you just hope these guys have been preparing their bodies to be ready, April ready in March when this tournament kicks off. You hope that that's what they've been preparing for. Because look, last year, remember the Guardians slow played all their pitchers, right? They were limiting innings. They didn't have them ramped up because of the short spring training, and then we saw come the end of the season how that worked out good for them, and it kept most of them healthy outside of Savali and Plesac's self-inflicted injury. Those guys pitched their best ball late in the season, so you hope that Cal Quantrill, has his arm and body ready to pitch like he's pitching in April and March. Everybody's got to be moved up by a month, and that includes all the guys in this list. So that's the only thing you got to be concerned with, and that's why the report date is a little bit early for these guys, just so the team can check them out and make sure they're ready to go. But I don't know. Anytime you are pushing the envelope a month early in terms of intensity, it's definitely a question mark, and it will be for the pitchers. And like I said, you don't want to lose Naylor. But you definitely don't want to lose Jimenez. So I don't know. And playing up the middle and then running the bases as hard as he does. Plus, you know what? One month of extra play for Andres Jimenez, how many more times is he going to hit by a pitch because of that, right?
How many times is he going to slide into first base before he breaks his hand?
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Why did you bring that up? Come on.
It's going to be him sliding. I mean, there's somebody out there who's probably like, I can't believe Jeff brought it up again. But like,
I forgot about that. I wish I had.
Maybe the coaches will finally sit down and explain to him, like, head first slides into first base are negative momentum. You're slowing down. I'm not. Okay, I'll stop. I'll stop. So listeners, this show. You all have heard my rant, but there's a reason for this rant. It's a poor decision. I think this is a perfect place, though, speaking of potentially poor decisions, to end the audio version. We still got some news in terms of like the league we wanted to talk about very quickly. I want to talk about the weird Marlins trade. Wanted to talk about Andrew Chafin and Michael Fulmer and just some other things with that. But I want to thank you all for listening, rating, and reviewing. Downloading it helps. Remember to click the bell, subscribe. I guess you now follow on iTunes as well. All of that stuff is helpful for our show. And again, thank you. Friday was a top 5 show all time in YouTube views. So thank you all who were a part of that. And go Guardians, go. So do you want to start relievers or trade?
Well, let's go with the relievers. I have the Andrew Chafin one pulled up. I don't have much on that. I just think that we talked about him a little bit, and he goes back to Arizona. He got a 1-year deal, right?
An Ohio boy on a series of 1-year deals. He's a lefty. He's not a loogie. Like, he's a legitimate lefty.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't get a better deal. He had a good season last year.
He had a very good season. Like, he was a very solid left-handed pitcher, and he had to kind of settle. But yeah, it's good for Arizona. Needed bullpen depth. We've talked about that on the show as well. So that's just a smart ad by them. He's familiar with the park, familiar with the team. It's a good get for them.
He might be their best reliever now, to be honest.
I mean, I'm trying to think who their closer is, and I'm blanking.
Well, it was Mark Melanson last year, but he was not great. Didn't miss a lot of bats. Like, they had Joe Mansupply closing games. People thought
I was
they were
going to say Joe
him.
Mansupply is who I couldn't think about.
Chafin's the best reliever, I think.
No, Mansupply. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's hurt or not. But
ended up being, I can't remember. But yeah, no, it's we'll see like Corbin Martin, Kyle Nelson. There's some interesting younger guys. Man, Corbin Martin's already 27. Boy, that Zach Greinke deal did not work out. But yeah, it's
really.
And Corbin and Bukowskis, who they just let go.
Yeah.
What
was the official money on Chafin? It was did we get money on that?
I didn't see what the official money was. I just saw the $6.25 million.
Yeah, I would say that's probably not worth the. That's. I think Chafin should have gotten a better deal than that, but I also don't know if I'm the Guardians, if I'm paying that because A, you didn't have the 40-man roster spot. B, I don't know. It's a luxury, I guess. I mean, a bullpen, like I've said before, bullpens always scare me year to year because you always need somebody the next year because, like, look, the 05 bullpen was fantastic. The 06 bullpen got blown to smithereens. They were terrible. Same with 07. 07 bullpen, great. 08 bullpen, trash. This bullpen has been good for a few years, but, guys eventually do wear down, so you always need depth and help. So Chafin could have helped, but also, what's the last time this team signed a free agent reliever that, really worked out. Like, Brian Shaw was a minor league ad again 2 years ago. Was good in 2021, but not so much in 2022 until, and then Boone Logan was the one before that. He was awful. That was back in 2017. Obviously, De Los Santos was a minor league deal, but
the big money guy I always think about is Kerry Wood, and that didn't really.
That was awful. So yeah, signing free agent relievers to major league deals just is a very risky proposition. As much as I think Chafin is a good pitcher, it's not. It wasn't like a dire need for Cleveland, so I'm okay with it. But we'll see.
I just wanted to point out Michael Fulmer. You and I both kind of liked him. I don't think his money is out there, but the reason I bring him up is we've seen this reliever market, and Alex Reyes also went to the Dodgers.
I have some thoughts there. I
think that's a great get by them and entering that system with what they do. Like, it's kind of terrifying to think about as well. But
stop letting the Dodgers sign pitchers and rehabilitate them. Like, they did this with Blake Trinan, okay? And I even have the headline for you. Alex Reyes stolen by the Dodgers. They stole him $1 million. This guy was an all-star 2 years ago. I'm telling you, if he is healthy this year, Alex Reyes is going to be an all-star reliever. Stop letting the Dodgers get away with this. $1 million. Anybody could have done this. The Rockies should have done this. Just so the Dodgers, the Rockies are going to be terrible this year, okay? And the Rockies are terrible at pitching development. But you want to know what? Somebody in that division should have said, crap, Alex Reyes is a free agent. He's got a good history. If he's healthy, he's going to be really good. The Dodgers already signed Shelby Miller. They're going to turn him around. They already turned around Evan Phillips after he was the DFA king a couple of years ago. They signed Daniel Hudson. They turned around Blake Trinan. Like, stop letting them do this. Why? Just sign them so the Dodgers don't do it. Help yourself out by hurting the Dodgers. And now Alex Reyes is going to be an all-star if he's healthy this year. Why are we letting them get away with this? Why?
No, he was a guy I kind of wanted the Guardians to chase, even though, again, maybe it's not necessarily their thing to go out and fix arms, but, man, the Dodgers are so good at it. Like, I mean, Tony Gonsolin being a 5K senior sign is just, another way to look at how well they do things. But I knew you'd have some thoughts on Alex Reyes, but the come around on all of this is, if teams get needy for relievers, the market is very dry right now. I mean, in terms of free agency, there's Michael Wacha as a starter, Juraxen Profar as a hitter, and then I had one of the Locked On teams reach out to me, one of our other hosts, and be like, hey, is this guy available for trade at the catching position? And I'm not going to say what player or the host, but then I was like, that guy hasn't played for us for a few years. So, teams and hosts are desperate for catching. There's nothing to be found. The market is bone dry. Maybe I'll do one of my tweets this week about making a free agent team, but I'm pretty sure any free agent team I can make today. It's bad. Though half of them are playing for in the World Baseball Classic. I was trying to think, was that the Dutch team? Is all free, like Didi Gregarious and all of those kind of okay. So if this Cleveland team does need to clear another 40-man spot, I again think that they're really good in the pen. But if someone like Enyel is a sell high candidate, like if you think that maybe last year was his Jeff Manship year, his Scott
Atchison,
thank you, could not get it out year. If Dan Taro was pretty solid for a few years there, but there was always the Matt Albers year. There was always someone who kind of peaked and they could never come back around. So if you think it's him, then maybe you sell high, maybe you figure something out. But the market's getting lean, and that could benefit the Guardians. And then I got a comment. When I saw the JJ Bleday for AJ Puck deal again, I was like, what are people doing? Like, Bleday was terrible.
You and I are going to disagree a little on this. Go ahead. You and I are going to disagree a little bit. Well, Jeff froze, so I can just go ahead and espouse my feelings of this trade away. But I liked JJ Bleday a lot in college. I have to admit I was a big JJ Bleday fan at Vanderbilt, and he has not hit at the major league level or the minor league level. Unfortunately, the hit tool is not carried for him. but the guy hits the crap out of the ball, and he was a polished hitter at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt has not done a great job at producing pro hitters. Unfortunately, the list is pretty low. Like Dansby Swanson is probably the best Vanderbilt hitter I could think of off the top of my head, but I still do have an affinity for JJ Bleday. He was one of my big guys in college, and as much as I like Bleday, and I can admit that his contact issues are a big detriment on his ability to be a regular, solid regular in the majors. I don't think he will be anymore. The A's absolutely sold so low on AJ Puck. I don't know what they were doing there. Like I again, as somebody who really likes Bleday, I can admit I don't think he's going to be an average regular because he just can't hit enough. I just don't understand what the A's are doing trading AJ Puck. Hey, you're back.
Yeah, I don't understand what the A's are doing in general. Bleday was awful this past year. Like, not just bad, like legitimately terrible. Like, to the point where I don't think he was going to make a single Marlins top 10 list. Even though we're talking about a guy who was a very high pick. I know you mentioned the Virginia thing, or Virginia. Virginia has their own draft struggles, but Vandy, for the longest time, Pedro Alvarez, until Dansby Swanson, was the greatest hitter in Vanderbilt draft history. And he had been one of the biggest disappointments in recent years. It was a huge hype guy, but it's ugly. Like Vanderbilt, for whatever reason, the hitters have not translated super well. And Bleday is just another guy who's not hitting. And I mean, Puck's at least shown the ability to get out lefties, be a reliever, potentially a starter. I don't know. Again, like, I was reading the Keith Law's piece where like very low on all those pieces in the Sean Murphy deal. This doesn't make sense. I don't know what the A's management is doing right now. I really don't know what their management is doing top to bottom. It's weird.
That's a win for the Marlins and Kim Nigg. She needs and I don't know how to pronounce her name. I'm sorry, but that's a big win for her because she needed one, right? The Marlins needed one.
Yeah, I'll pull it up, but like just to give you an idea, this is a guy who was like supposed to be a quick to the majors guy, drafted in 2019. I know COVID affected everything. Last year, he got in 85 games. I guess, he rebounded last year. It was a 123 runs created plus, but 27% strike. I mean, his numbers in the minors look like Zack Collins.
Yeah.
In 2021 was the year I was thinking. I probably didn't check in with him enough. I know there's some health issues this year, but it's like last year he was below league average in AA. At 23, he's 24 this year. He was in his call to the big leagues. It was not good. I don't. He's going to be. Let's see. He is already 25. He was kind of an older, juniorish age, and I don't know what Oakland's doing. Good for the Marlins. It's an odd little thing. I guess it's like a time for minor trades though. Like Cleveland had their trade like the day before that, and we'll see what happens. Teams are kind of starting to settle in, figuring out where maybe they need a little more depth. Just in terms of the World Baseball Classic is going to have an effect. It's going to be more at bats, but also means you need more depth. And I think we saw Cleveland, go out and add 2 potential starters with one of their main starters being out. They went out and added a catcher with 2 catchers gone. Might also speak to where they are not concerned about what guys are showing up or not showing up, because they don't haven't addressed it. But it's going to be something to watch. We also, we have not done our Negro League thing that I know we talked about. I got the book from the library. I've been reading it rather avidly. Just finished the chapter on Luke Easter, one of the more fascinating characters. Already did Satchel Paige and Larry Doby, and then I'm reading all of them, not just the Guardians ones, but we'll also get into that this week, as well as our prospect talk and our prospect draft. So make sure you are tuning in, make sure you are rating and reviewing. Downloading it helps. Hit the bell, make a little ding in your mind if that makes it more fun to ring a bell. Thank you. And again, we really appreciate all the support on the show and just in the off season in general. And do you have anything else you want to throw in?
We're back to 5 days a week, and it's baseball season. Let's go. I'm ready. I'm ready for the World Baseball Classic. I'm pumped for that. We can talk about that. Let us know if you're pumped for the World Baseball Classic. This is some interesting information. I was looking up to see where you could watch games because I was like, I have YouTube TV, and I was like, well, I'm sure there will be games on MLB Network. I did not see any games on MLB Network for World Baseball Classic. The broadcast schedule I saw was Fox Sports 1, Fox Sports 2, which I don't know how you get Fox Sports 2 if I even have that. And there's going to be a lot of games on that app called Tubi, which I guess is free. So no games on MLB Network. Yeah, Fox Sports 1, Fox Sports 2, and Tubi. So and like I said, I believe Tubi is free. So should be easy access if you have the Fox Sports channels to watch the World Baseball Classic. I'm pumped. I want to talk more about that. And pitchers and catchers there's a lot of them already in Arizona. If you follow any of the Guardians players on social media, a lot of them are already down in the area. So it's time. I'm ready to go. We're back to 5 days a week. Let's ratchet it up. Let's go.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Tubi I recommend. I like Tubi. It's a different little thing, but it's completely free of commercials. So I would say go. I don't know what the parent company is. Watch it be something terrible, and I'm gonna feel bad about that. I should probably do my research. No media literacy from me, sadly there.
Ouch.
So if it's owned by someone terrible, then I apologize ahead of time.
I just know they're going to have World Baseball Classic games. That's all I know.
Yeah, it's owned by the Fox Corporation. So there you go.
I have no.
Which explains why it also has Fox 2 or Fox Sports 2. So it is like apparently Fox has control of the World Baseball Classic. So
looks like it. I will be watching and not saying anything else then.
Yeah. Again, thank you all for being a part of the Locked On Guardians family /team I guess maybe leaning to family after watching that Fast and Furious trailer during the Super Bowl tonight. That's like the big thing in there, right? It's maybe instead of being the team, it's the Locked On Guardians family. We can run with that for at least today. And go Guardians, go.